We talked a bit about this a little bit on Monday, but there is sort of more information coming out about and this really does fit with the MO of this national led government, that we want to get rid of te reo as much as we can. We want to disappear it like ice does to a slightly tanned American as quickly as possible. And this fits in. And it's one of those things that even if this wasn't a part of that plan, if it was something else, when you've got so many other examples of getting rid of Māori things, getting rid of te reo, this just becomes another one.
Welcome back. Education Minister Erica Stanford has imposed a near total ban on Māori words in new additions to a series of books used to teach 5-year-olds to read. She says the inclusion of te reo Māori can confuse young readers. But primary school principals say the evidence doesn't support that. Here's senior reporter Juliet Speedy.
Children, sponges for information and for learning language.
When kids learn to that.
What about just kids? Like, there's words like English is a bastardized language. It takes some French, it takes some Latin, it takes some Greek, it has its own words. I mean, I always feel like Māori it's not an English language, but we use Māori in day-to-day conversation in this country. So what about words that we use all the time that they aren't English words, but you kind of use them as part of the English language, just like you say croissant instead of whatever else because it's part of the French language. I mean, there are those kinds of words that if you're not even going to have those in books, that's a massive disservice, let alone anything else.
There's a really key aspect here, and I think Erica Stanford would be good to ruminate on this a little bit. English vowels and Māori vowels are the same. So that's a really core part of learning language, right, is how it sounds. Now you take maybe a really common English sentence full of words that we accept are English. As you said, we've pillaged words from other cultures. You know, go to the cafe, get a croissant, put on your PJs, your pajamas, all of
Park
that
the
sort of
car in
stuff.
the garage.
Whereas because te reo wasn't a written language, it's all phonetic. So you can do things with te reo, like sound it out based on the vowel sounds that we just learned, and it'll work. Whereas there are so many words in English that don't follow the same vowel structure or the same sounding structure if you're reading them on a page.
Yeah.
Like, people learning English that are coming from other languages have often commented that English is incredibly hard to learn because of that pillaging of other words from other languages. So this whole thing of like, oh, we don't want to introduce te reo into learning for these young kids because it'll confuse them is utter bunk.
Yeah.
Like, there's no justification for it.
Peter makes a beautiful point immediately. There's lots of te reo in the New Zealand Oxford Dictionary. And look, even if I'll just say one word that most of us, certainly all kids and teachers, what about the Māori words that teachers now use? Kia ora. What? So the teachers of those 5-year-olds aren't, because if you're going to not allow them to read them, surely you're next going to say, and you can't speak them, because if you're speaking words that you're not then learning in books, that's going to be harmful. So is that the next thing? Teachers are going to be instructed not to say kia ora in the morning. Yeah, is that because that would be a logical step? Because if you don't want these kids to be confused by what they read, then surely the logical step would be, I don't want these kids to be confused by what they hear either. We'll keep going with the story.
They're at school to learn.
Yeah.
They will be confused by English words as well.
Yeah.
It's just, what country are we living in?
Yeah, exactly.
Should we start with
When
that?
kids learn te reo alongside English, they don't get confused. You know, they get smarter. The research is crystal clear. We know this. You know, we've seen in Europe, for example, children knowing 4 or 5 languages.
An Education Ministry report shows Stanford decided in October last year to exclude all Māori words except for characters' names from any new books.
That's all words. So we heard something different on the week, and I'm going to play you some of that as well. We heard that 6 words were acceptable, but now we're hearing all words. And this is the thing. Last October, which means when she sat down with Jack Tame, they'd made that decision and she didn't say anything about it. She didn't go, well, actually, Jack, you're not quite right. We're going to exclude all Māori words from books. Because that would have been a bad look.
Education Ministry's Ready to Read Phonics Plus series. The paper showed the decision was driven by concern Māori words were confusing for children learning to read English.
The evidence in New Zealand is that our te reo speak in our kura kaupapa and our kura iwi, they're learning 2 languages and they outperform our mainstream children.
Bingo.
So we shouldn't be afraid of our children learning 2 languages.
Te reo Māori words are incorporated in English on a daily basis.
Yes.
The phrase kia ora, talking about your family as your whānau. You know, these are words that are now integrated into English, and I don't think we should be afraid to use them in school when kids are learning how to speak English.
Stanford yesterday rejected claims the decision was an attack on te reo Māori, pointing to her role in introducing a
not
new
an
set
attack
of
on anybody
structured
else.
literacy books entirely in te reo.
It's actually an attack on the kids as well. You are taking from the kids one of the things, I mean, Chippy said it much more eloquently than I did. You are taking from these kids one of the most unique things, maybe the only unique thing from this education system in this country, and you're removing it from them. So this is bad for the kids.
Released earlier this year.
When I launched those books, I was extraordinarily proud of it. And I invited all of the media, all of you, to come when I launched them at a school. And none of you came. Not one of you.
But the event Stanford is referring to was at Kirikiri Primary School on the 4th of February this year, 2 days out from Waitangi Day.
You come to everything else that I do, but you didn't come to that one. It was really disappointing. It was a good news story.
After questions in the House today, Stanford said she is making change, but not at the expense of te reo Māori.
In the new books that will round out the series, a dozen or so that still need to be produced, will still contain Māori words. And to say they're being banned is absolutely wrong.
But it seems how te reo fits into books for young readers is a story the government's now rewriting.
So there you go. Do we need to? Do you want to hear a little bit from Q&A in the weekend? Because we didn't cover this on Monday. We could hear what they said, because Jack has a bit of a crack about the 6 words. Whatever squares. We'll give it 30 seconds or so, see where they go.
The Ministry for Education declined to reprint a book for young readers because it had too many Māori words for the structure.
So this is the thing, a book. That's singular.
Well, one
Whereas
book.
the news item just said it was decided in October of last year that there would be a total ban on te reo Māori other than people's names in all books. So that's what I'm saying. She knew that and didn't correct him.
A structured literacy phonics-based approach. I think it was a year 1 book for very young readers anyway. There were 6 Māori words, and even though those words are in common use, so words like koro, wharenui, karakia, the ministry declined to reprint it in the form that it was previously being printed and instead sent it out to schools for teachers to read in a big version. Do you support that decision?
Look, I absolutely do. It was 1 reader of 75. All of those 75 readers contain high-frequency te reo words. The issue was one around what we call scope and sequence. It's essentially when you are teaching a 5-year-old to learn to read English, you do it in a certain way. You build up sound after sound and then combination of sounds in
Like
a structured
vowel
way.
sounds.
English is already difficult as it is, and there are a number of words
Why?
that don't follow the
Why
rules
is
you
it
have to
difficult?
remember, so they're called heart words. And when you add te reo words in, they also have to be remembered as heart words, memorising the whole word because they don't follow the same vowel sounds. And so that particular book didn't fit with the scope and sequence of all the books. And so we've sent it out to every school as a big book. It's you know, I think the right thing to do. But what I would note at the same time as we've done this, we've also created that exact same resource for the first time ever in te reo Māori. We've never had a set of books for learning to read te reo in a structured, decodable way We created those and they're available to use not only for Māori medium kura kaupapa but also for the mainstream.
There you go. That'll do. It's interesting actually because they're saying opposite things, and I don't know Chewie enough. I don't know enough about te reo Māori to agree with you or not, because I always was taught that Māori is a, e, I, o, u, which is different from a, e, I, o, and u. But I think long and short vowel sounds, they're not exactly the same, but they're very similar. And look, I actually find it easier to pronounce, if I have an unknown word in front of me in Māori or in English, I think it's easier to pronounce in Māori because Māori is much more of a phonetical language. And I know when I'm writing addresses on envelopes or addresses on merch, if it's a Māori street name and I say it, I don't have to look back at it because you can sound it out.
Yeah.
If it's an English word, I often have to look back again to make sure that I've got it correct. So I want to know now, look, and this is just I'm not a journalist, but this is sort of my journalistic side. She is saying there is not a ban on Māori words. She said it in the House today. She said it in that story. We are being told there's a ban on Māori words. So there's a discrepancy. Everyone in the chat saying she's lying. You might be right. But this is where I go, I want to know if this is untrue or not, because we're getting different stories from different parties.
I think there's so much to unpack here. Like, by her reasoning in that Q&A interview, we should start teaching kids te reo, because that is a language that has consistent rules, whereas English doesn't and is therefore harder and more confusing. But she's saying we should focus on English first because it is too hard and confusing. But if we add in Māori, then that is going to be confusing. Like, I think it is confusing. It's confusing for adults that have already learned a certain way and might already have inbuilt biases, or might find it challenging that their child is learning more te reo than they ever had the chance to. This is what I'm kind of like, fuck, I wish they did more of this when I was a kid, because this is the country that I live in. You've done more learning on te reo, Pat. And you'll say that it is hard to learn a new language as a fucking adult because your brain's not as elastic anymore.
Yeah, and
kids are sponges. I want to know who this is protecting and who is really finding it challenging.
Yeah, and like I said,
it's not going to be the kids.
That idea of a year one not having any Māori words. And Chippy said it beautifully. He found the word quickly and said whānau. Who doesn't say whānau? What teacher won't say whānau? And if you're not able to read to your kids Māori words, or you're not able to have the kids read them, then surely the next step would be, well, teachers, we're going to have approved words to say. We know how much this side of government hates words being mandated on you. This is sort of the opposite. This is the English words being mandated. Where are all my conspiracy theorists now for mandating words or non-words?
I'm still picking up bits and pieces. You know, kura is a new word for me, or a reasonably recent new word. When people got all bent out of shape about them going up on school signs. And it's like, well, I'm an adult, never come across this word before. It seems to be on the same sign that used to say school. Well, I've worked that out. Yay me! During COVID.
The truth about that, Chewie, is it still had the word school there as well. They didn't replace the word school. They put both
this is
words
good.
together.
It is good to learn things. And when the Minister of Education is going, yeah, it's good to learn some things, but not all of the things. And certainly we're going to take away some of the things that we have learned in the past because shrug reasons. Please don't say I'm racist. Like, there are, exactly as that comment said, there are so many studies, so many examples from around the world that the more you throw language skills at children, the more is retained and the more it helps their ongoing learning. Study after study after study after study. And this flies in the face of all of that. And the only thing that I can come back to on it is this government doesn't care about research, experts, proof, any of it. Like, Erica Stanford can try and position herself as a more moderate national voice as much as she wants. She can go on Q&A and try and distance herself from Luxon and from Seymour and from everyone else and try to shuffle her place in the deck, ready to pounce. But here she is, front-footing and fumbling the fact that she has instructed the Ministry of Education to remove te reo from learner-reader books for bullshit reasons.
And that's why you go remove it from, you know, te whata ora from government agencies, remove it from road signs, remove it from books. And that's why I'll say even if she thinks there are educational reasons for that, it's like there's too many things lining up. And as we say, we don't trust this government. There's too many other things lining up for us not to go, this just feels like the next way to disappear te reo from our landscape, one small child at a time. So when those kids are year one, so 5, 6, they're not going to be able to do it. And then 7, 8, 9, when do you bring it back in? I just, and as I said, what normal adults now with young children, so you think about people in their 20s and 30s probably, aren't using Māori words every day because they are, it sounds weird when you say it out loud, it almost sounds disrespectful, it's not supposed to be, but they're no longer Māori words, they're just our words that we use as society.
Correct. And look, this one of the things about incorporating these things into their learning is that it then becomes normalized and they use it. Like my mate who's an early childhood teacher uses quite a lot of te reo. You know, and fuck, I learn words off him all the time because of it. He's also an immigrant. Like, he's had to learn this stuff as an adult, you know, and he can do it, and his preschool kids can do it. And then suddenly when they go into primary school, they're gonna drop it. Like, this is the whole thing about learning, right? You teach someone, you then have a grounding and a foundation for it, and then you teach something else and you keep going. But here we're not building on it. And that was always the thing, like when you go back into the dusty sands of time when I went through school. Like, I remember doing sing-songs of vowel sounds and all of that, and you know, having some te reo stuff, learning the colours and the letters and the numbers, and then it stopped. And then that was it. And it was never reinforced ever again through the rest of my schooling after about halfway through primary school. So surely we are better than that now. There's been a whole lot more work done from this. We've probably experienced the same thing from our broadcasting careers, is that there was a lot of, hey, look, we've got to do more to promote language. And like on TV, it was always the weather reports, right? Heaps more. And the broadcasting industry tried to put more. My partner's watching New Zealand Treasure Island at the moment, and the amount of te reo that is sprinkled through that show is far and above anything that would have happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So why is this government so concerned and so willing to pander to people that go, I don't agree with this is too much? Why are they caught lying about it? Why is this a hill that they want to die on? It's bizarre.
Yeah. You've raised a really interesting point as well. Were you aware of that? Probably were.
It does happen sometimes. Oh, before you jump in there, I just want to say, and look, this is me as a friend. Okay, it's because of this. It's because she's been called out lie after lie after. I've got to say, man, Erica Stanford's not right for you.
I was going to give you a compliment there, but you can go fuck yourself now. No, in all seriousness, you made a really interesting point, because there's tons of resources for 0 to 3-year-olds, early childhood education, te reo Māori books. So what you just said, which resonates so well, is they'll go to kindy, they'll go to daycare, they'll go to these places and they'll have these books, and some kids at kindy and that, they start to learn to read, and then they'll go to new entrants, and then they'll go to year 1, and all of a sudden they'll all disappear and they won't have them anymore. It's quite bizarre. It's quite bizarre.